Pen Night Radio is proud to bring you Drop a Line, 60-minute interviews with authors, artists, and indie creatives from all around the world. These are the stories behind the stories. And continuing today's theme of music, we have the amazing Ngoma Hill joining us today. Sir, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
It's so great to have you on the show. For those of you that don't know, I recently had the privilege of watching Ngoma perform at the Arts and Authors Extravaganza in Cherry Hill, which is a kind of a moulage of writers and authors and musicians and poets all coming together in Cherry Hill at the Doubletree Inn to share their stories and blow us away with their amazing work. And Ngoma, I have to say, you certainly blew our minds listening to you perform. Really, there was something very just elevating about it.
I'm glad.
Yeah. So I really would love to learn a little more about you. One of our recurring guests, James Ellerby, recommended you for the show, and we really appreciated that. But how did you get your start with music? We're talking about why music matters tonight. And
why music matters.
Yeah.
I'm a multi-instrumentalist, and I started taking violin lessons at age 7. And by the time everybody else in school started learning how to play instruments, that was like in the 6th grade, I could already play. So the band teacher gave me a flute, and one of the keys was broken, so I couldn't play it. So he took that and he gave me a cello. So I started playing cello like about 6th, 7th grade. The high school I went to didn't have an orchestra, so I couldn't play violin nor cello. And ended up being in a band playing baritone horn.
Wow.
I attended Virginia State College at the time. Now it's Virginia State University, where I majored in instrumental music education. Interestingly enough, while I was there, there's a brother named Joe Bonner. Some people might have heard of him, who was a pianist from North Carolina, who played with Pharoah Sanders. And anyway, we had this little jazz group called the Avant-Gardes. And the music department said, y'all can't go out in the community and make that noise and say y'all represent Virginia State College. Okay, so that was the beginning and the ending of that. But I decided, but by then I had become, cause I was a little kid, and I had always wanted to play upright bass, but I wasn't big enough. So by the time I got to college, I was big enough to play one, and I could already play a bunch of string instruments. So I chose to play bass, and I played upright bass with an 18-piece dance band. We used to play for stuff like the ROTC balls, things like that. But I was still in the marching band also, and I was also in the orchestra in college. So
that's quite a story already, like just like the experiences you had at a young age, and then just how active you were going into school and going into college and being part of all these different orchestras. What was that like to finally begin, using your talent professionally?
It was great. It was like, wow, I'm just out of high school. I'm a freshman in college, and I'm playing with this 18-piece dance band. Yeah. Well, actually, I just started playing bass in college, so it took me like about a semester to be able to play it.
Right.
But once I was able to play it, then I played with the dance band, and that was like really great. But I was also in the marching band, and we did halftime shows for the Eagles and Giants.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
So it was great, Um,
And what is the process for like getting a gig of that, magnitude?
I don't know. The school did it. I had nothing to do with that. I
Wow.
was just lucky enough to be a part of it.
Right. So you happen to be in a great place, a nice, well-connected place.
But yeah,
Um,
right
was
down.
yeah, was it a how did you end up selecting the college? Was there a story behind that?
Kind of the college had a high school music institute
Hmm.
that would happen during the summer. And after my senior year in high school, although I had graduated from high school, I still went to the high school music institute that summer at Virginia State, and because I hadn't decided where I was going to school, but once I went attended that was the whole for the whole summer. Then I said, okay, well, I'm coming back here and go to school. So that's how I happened to go there.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, I love so many things about your story. I can somewhat relate. I wrote my first book, drafted my first book, which will never be published, when I was in 11th grade. And I decided that I wanted to pursue college for writing. And I happened to go to Stockton in New Jersey. And it was very similar for me. I wasn't part of any orchestra, but I was able to do some workshop classes, and we formed our own workshop coming out of school. And that was a big reason why I was able to publish so fast, because
Mm-hmm.
I was able to get into the practice with other people. And as a group, we really kind of tested each other and challenged each other. Like, what was it like with your bandmates when you first joined the orchestra? Were you guys friends? Did you
Yeah,
guys challenge
we were
each
all friends.
other?
We were all good friends. We all hung out together.
It's awesome.
And in fact, interestingly enough, people don't realize that a lot of people that go to school that major in music, they end up not being in music.
Hmm.
With their careers, don't lead to that. They end up teaching something else or doing some
Hmm.
other kind of work. But I just not just actually for the last few years is a brother that went to college with me and who's also a musician, and we are probably two of the only, maybe, I don't know. I hate to say this because there might be more that I don't know about, but as far as I know, there's only like two of us that actually majored in music that actually do music now.
Hmm.
So it's
Wow,
kind
that's interesting.
of, yeah,
So you kind of see people get separated by, sure, let me try this out for a while, and then the ones who have such a passion for it that it continues with them outside of school.
yeah. Well, most of them end up teaching,
Right.
but I didn't want to teach, so
Right.
so simple as that.
Hey, I'm an eighth grade teacher right now for English, so I can always understand whenever somebody comes up to me and tells me, yeah, that's not for me.
Mhm.
Because though I love it, there are many days where I'm like, why did I want to do this again?
I worked as a substitute teacher for a while, for about a semester. Um, the rival high school that I went to, the band teacher became ill and they needed somebody to substitute for him for a semester and teaching band and choir for a semester. And that's what let me know I didn't want to teach. Like the
Right,
paperwork and stuff is like, no, that ain't. That's not for
right,
me.
right.
I don't want to do
So, so going out to these orchestras and doing these gigs and like, these football stadiums, just really this like massive stuff. First of all, is that the biggest gig you've ever done, or does it get better from there?
that. I played for 1 million people in Central Park
Wow.
for a rally against a rally for nuclear disarmament in 1982.
Wow.
My ex-wife and I had a duo called Serious Business, and we did contemporary freedom music,
Hmm.
and we ended up performing for this rally. That's 4
Wow.
million people, and I think that's the biggest thing. Some of the other things I've done musically is we do music of social consciousness because serious business, and what we talked about was serious stuff. So
Mhm.
we ended up performing in Madison Square Garden a couple of times for union rallies.
Mm.
The hospital workers gave a rally, and we performed at that rally. And then the hotel workers did a big rally. We performed for them, and they came in with big sheets and the buckets like wax come in for industrial wax. They
Yeah.
came in with buckets and they beat on the buckets, and they had big signs that said "Scabs check in, but they don't check out."
Mm.
And we did this song called "Stop the Bosses, Don't Listen to Their Lies, No Givebacks. We got to organize." And they started singing, and then they went out in the street and blocked up Fifth Avenue with 5 o'clock traffic.
Wow, that's huge. Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. I love that story. Is when you first started playing when you were young, did you ever imagine that your music could, have that kind of impact?
No, I didn't, because I wasn't socially conscious at 7.
Hmm. Sure. Of
so,
course. Of
so I
course.
had
Of
no
course.
idea that I was going to do any of that. I didn't start writing poetry until I was kind of old. I mean, I wrote my first poem while I'm a Vietnam vet, and I wrote my first poem while I was in Vietnam.
Mm.
And one of the things I was fortunate about my stay there was my friends. I had friends who were sociology majors and history majors, and they would send me books. And it was before you could take Black studies in college, but they still sent me books that they were studying. So I got the knowledge of almost like a Black studies course while I was in Vietnam. So while I
Wow.
was there, I made this decision that I was going to take whatever talent I had to raise social political consciousness or do whatever I could do, for my people. So I came back looking to do that.
Yeah.
So I came back from Vietnam, and I moved from. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. So I moved from Virginia to Newark, New Jersey,
Mm.
where I worked with Amiri Baraka and the Committee for a Unified Newark and the Congress of African People.
Mm.
And I did some of his plays, and we did music, and I taught in the African Free School, which was considerably different than teaching in a regular facility. And yeah, that's kind of how I got started writing poetry. That I'm
Wow.
doing. And that's why I chose to do the kind of work that I'm doing.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, truly, for your service to our country. I'm always very humbled to meet a veteran and to be able to talk to a veteran on here. And having you've already given us so much about how you got started and the purpose of your poems and your music. Um, what would you say, today is the general goal that you pursue with your art?
My goal is and has always been, well, not always, because I had to, start somewhere. But my music and my poetry has always been to raise social, political, and spiritual consciousness.
Mm.
That's the thesis of what I do, and that's why I do it. I don't
Mm.
write about silly stuff. I don't write about my love life. I don't. I don't, I don't write about my parents weren't cool because they were mad cool.
Right.
I
Right.
never.
Sure.
I didn't have that. I didn't have that as a problem. So,
Right.
so that's why I write, and that's how I write.
Right. It feels like today, every time we turn on the TV, there's some sort of um, like fracture in people's understanding. You know what I mean by that? It
Mm-hmm.
seems like people are becoming more and more divided. It seems like misinformation only gets worse as time goes on. So you mentioned social, political, and spiritual awareness. Do you want to talk a little bit more about each of those and how you think people need to become more aware?
Um,
We could
there's so
start
much.
with maybe social. Yeah.
There's so much that people can do, and there's so much garbage that's going on, and we don't move on those particular things because we don't know that a lot of people don't know that they can.
Hmm.
Two is a lot of people just don't care, and three, people aren't aware. A lot of people aren't aware of what is going on in the world. So I think it's kind of like based upon that. I try to give people enough information for them to be able to make some decisions about how to go about life.
Mm.
And since that's the reason that I write, I think I've accomplished doing that because I don't write about. That's all I do. That's all I write about. I don't write about my love life. Although I have written love poems to people I was in love with, but other than that, they haven't been published and stuff like that. So that's what's up. It's like if we had more truth, if we could really get to the truth of things,
Mhm.
we will make different decisions to do things differently. So I try to give people enough information for them to make important decisions about how what they need to do to change things.
Right. And that was social. And moving on to political, is there anything you want to add there?
No, that's it.
That's it. And how about when it comes to spiritual awareness?
Spiritual awareness. I practice the African traditional religion known as Ifa. I am a priest of Obatala, and I was initiated in Nigeria, in Ibadan, Nigeria. And I try to give people, see how I explain this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a religion that's been malignant, and people have been lied to about it to such a degree that they think it's something they can't be a part of, or they shouldn't be a part of, or you know. And so I try to give people enough information to realize that there are other religions. Everybody's not a Christian. Everybody's not. Some people are Buddhist. Some people belong to Ifa. Some people, they're different. They're different approaches to spirituality. And the question is, how can you connect, and what will that mean to you as a person? So
right. Sure, that is the question. That's definitely the question. I find that in my own spiritual journey, the question that I kept coming back to when I converted was, what does this mean to me? How does this manifest in the life that I want to live? Is it relevant? Is it not relevant? Are there things that I missed in the way I used to think before? And it turns out, of course, without revealing much about that, it turns out that there were a lot of things that I missed before I took up this endeavor. So right. So that's very fascinating, and thank you for sharing that with us. So, do you believe that music has the power to really, how do I want to say this? Do you think that music and poetry have the power to penetrate, truth across all of the important areas of life?
all
Yeah,
all is
absolutely.
pretty big. I don't know
Yeah.
about all.
Right, right,
But
right, right.
a
Yeah.
lot, a lot, I would say, for sure. Um, a lot, a lot of people don't understand the fact that music does. We have a nervous system called your chakras. You know about your chakra system. And each note represents a different chakra. So you could play music that affects people's chakras, which will affect them. So yeah, it definitely does. And most people, well, I shouldn't say that. Maybe more and more people are beginning to find that out. But people are beginning to use more music as a healing tool. Uh, for example, I play the yidaki, and that's an instrument that Europeans called a didgeridoo, but it's the Aboriginal instrument. It's a wind instrument, and it's actually used for healing because you can play it over a person's chakra points and open their chakras.
Mm.
So, that's one of the instruments that I use.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, sure, of course it does.
Right.
Colors affect you, sounds affect you.
Yeah.
Everything is everything.
And I love that you brought up music for healing, because in the previous segment of the show before you came on, that was one of the areas that we covered. We covered how, I had an experience where I was flipping through music. Today, if we have these, little wonderful little devices here, we can have like thousands and thousands of tracks in the palm of our hand. And every now and then, I was saying I would get a little bit confused. But when I stumbled on the right piece of music, it just felt like I was sealed off, and then suddenly I just opened up, and things were kind of like, flowing out of me the way they were supposed to,
Okay.
So yeah, like music certainly has a lot of power over me. Who inspires you in your field?
I was greatly inspired by Amir Baraka, and That's one of the reasons I ended up in his organization and being a part of what he was doing.
Mm.
And there are many poets that have inspired me, like Askia Muhammad Torre, like Sonia Sanchez,
Mm.
like Donna L. Lee, like Carolyn Rogers, and I could go on and on and on.
Yeah. And what was it, maybe you could talk about one or two of them. What was it about them that, resonated so much with you?
One thing that resonated to me was what they were saying at that particular time and place that connected with where I was and what I was about and what I
Mm.
was doing. And I was always searching anyway for just what's good, what's bad, what's up, what's down.
Mm.
And these people just influenced me. Their work was what can I say? Inspirational.
Hmm.
And it led me to believe that, oh, if they could do that, then I can do that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned earlier that a lot of, your colleagues would become teachers. I think a lot of people come to that conclusion too, that they realized at one point, one of their role models taught them that they had a skill, they had a talent, they had a voice. And a lot of people come to the conclusion that, when we do what we do, it gives back to the next generation and beyond.
Mhm.
Anybody who happens to interact with what we put out there, be it a novel, a poem, a piece of music, it could be life changing for them.
I'm beginning to realize that because I've been doing this now long enough to meet people that have told me, well, your work really informed me, or your work got me looking up this and looking up that and beginning to do this and start joining this organization and that kind of thing. So it took me a while to figure that out, but yeah, you're right. Right,
Yeah,
it can be influential.
all things in their right
Hopefully it
time,
is.
right?
If it's not influential, then you're kind of wasting time.
Absolutely, yeah. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that a hard truth to swallow? I know we don't want to just entertain ourselves, right? We all have that hope that what we're putting out is going to travel beyond just us.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Otherwise,
This has been a
otherwise,
great
why do
conversation.
it?
Well, I'm sorry, what was that?
Otherwise, why do it? If it's
Right,
just
exactly.
no
This has
use.
been a great conversation so far. Are you enjoying your time on the show?
I am. I am.
Wonderful. We are
Amazing.
One True Promotion. We are a local promoter. This is exactly what we do. We love to bring amazing, interesting, influential people like yourself onto our platform and just, give you the floor and let you inspire all the people that happen to travel through our network. Do you have any favorite, you kind of touched upon this earlier. Do you have any favorite um, songs or types of music, or has that changed over the years in any way?
Um, yeah, it changed because I was exposed to different types of music that I wasn't exposed to when I was younger.
Mhm.
As I got older, so I like music of struggle.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
that's and I think that's kind of like what I do
Hmm.
musically.
Yeah.
And why is that? Because that's the purpose of why I do the music. I don't just I don't I do it for your entertainment and not just for your entertainment.
Right.
But
Oh, I like that.
I want it to be entertaining also.
Right. Oh, I like that very much. Yeah, no, that's good. You're so right. And how did you first of all, we talked a little bit about your orchestras and how you were friends with everybody. Real quick, what do you think is the importance of community for the poet or the musician?
Uh, Community is important for musicians because they need somebody to listen to what they're doing.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
community is important for poets and writers because they need people to read what they're writing.
Hmm.
Otherwise, if you're just writing for yourself, then you can do that in the bathtub.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, one of the things that I loved teaching about, I taught this a couple of times when I started teaching, but I loved breaking into, the Harlem Renaissance. and seeing people come together to, play their music and jam out. And the emphasis was on how they were watching each other's backs, and they were, keeping each other safe, and they were giving each other a platform, something to jump off of, and it was really incredible to just read into the significance of that.
I was fortunate as a musician to meet and work with at various stages a lot of people that were really doing important musical stuff. Like I did some work with Pete Seeger.
Wow.
I did some work with Odetta.
Wow.
So just to give you an example, I did a little work with Pharaoh Sanders. I did a lot of work with Amir Baraka. And that's just a few of the people that I've, come in contact with or done work with.
Wow. Do people recognize you when you walk the streets?
Not here. But actually, I did have that experience in London.
Okay. All right.
I performed at Queen Elizabeth Hall in London. Queen Elizabeth Hall is something like Lincoln Center.
Yeah.
And I was a part of a festival that they gave there that was given by a group called the African Dawn. And the African Dawn was a group of poets and musicians from Zimbabwe, from Ghana, from Gambia, from Senegal. And they invited my wife and I to come to perform for their festival. And then they invited us to come back to perform with them. We did like a 5-city tour.
Wow.
And I'm walking down the street and people are going, serious business, serious business.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I have had people approach me that I didn't know the hell they were. I was like, oh, I saw such and such a place. I'm like, okay.
I would be a little nervous if somebody I didn't know shouted serious business at me. But yeah, I would be like, what do you mean serious business? I ain't got no serious business. What you doing?
Well, the duo that I had with my wife was called Serious Business.
Right. So you fortunately knew what they were getting at. That's good. That's incredible. So wow, you've really had an amazing career, it sounds like.
It's been a bit.
It's definitely been a bit. Definitely,
so, you have to realize I'm 78 years old.
Well, you don't look a day over 20.
So I didn't just start doing this like yesterday. I didn't just wake up yesterday morning and decide.
Right.
I've been at this for a minute.
Has there, things change socially, politically, in some way, spiritually, in, every decade? There's been a lot that's happened in the 21st century. There's been a lot of ups and downs in the world of music and art, and verse. Have there been any major shifts that you've observed?
Well, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
But each period has its own music and its own poetry and whatnot, and a lot of it's based upon what's going on at that particular time and place.
Sure.
So yeah, things have changed. We had bebop, never got hip hop.
Right.
Hip hop is 50 years old, and people think that it actually started 50 years ago. Such crap.
Right. Right. Of course. No, you're so right.
Yeah.
Wow. So, so you mentioned when you write your poetry, right? You tend to write a lot about struggle. Now, my first question are your music and your poetry separate, or do they tend to kind of, have similar words or be on kind of the same track?
On the same track.
Yeah.
What I didn't do when you saw me, because I didn't know how long I was going to perform or what equipment they had and whatnot, but I use instruments and whatnot usually when I perform.
Nice.
And I I create the music on the stage, and then I do the poetry over the music that I've created.
Wow.
So you only got to hear a tiny bit, a little yadaki.
Right.
For those who don't know what a yadaki is the instrument that Europeans call a didgeridoo, but the Aboriginals call it a yadaki. they say that they use it to sound the universe into being.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
ah,
Yeah, no, that's heavy. I like that.
so I only played that a little bit. But if I do like half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, I might play 4 or 5 instruments,
Hmm. That's
and
amazing.
I layer them. I can layer. I have a loop station, and I can layer instruments and stuff. Go play
Yeah.
over tracks, and so
Oh,
I have
that's cool.
I have a good time.
Yeah, sure sounds it. We had a good time listening to you at the Arts and Authors Extravaganza. I wanted to ask you more about, any specific poems that you want to talk about. But first, how did you hear about Arts and Authors Extravaganza?
James Ellerby told me about it.
Ah, he's great for that, isn't he?
He said, "Yeah, you should come and do this, blah 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 blah." I said, "Okay, I'll come down there." So
And was this the first year?
yeah, this is the first time I had done it.
Cool, very cool. And what did you think? What was your overall assessment?
Well, I thought there were a lot of authors and people that were getting exposure, but the problem was it wasn't a real draw. They didn't have a lot of people in the audience,
Mm-hmm.
and people weren't buying stuff. It was a book fair.
Right,
you
right,
know, people don't buy books at a book fair, then
right.
it's just just you
Yeah.
talking to a few people. So
And
I
in
thought,
areas like this here in South Jersey, especially since lockdown, we found that it's just more and more challenging to get people out to stuff,
yeah.
depending on what venue you are. What do you think are like, what do you think are the biggest challenges to that? And how do we overcome them, you think?
Well, one thing that's good is that there's a lot of stuff online now on Zoom,
Hmm.
so you can have experiences without actually physically taking yourself to the spot.
Hmm.
But that's not good for a book fair because you need people there to buy books.
Right, right. Absolutely. Absolutely. No, you're so right. And have you had any major shows online?
Yeah, yeah. But let me see. I produced a show for Mary Baraka's birthday a couple of years ago.
Mm.
They had about 20 poets on it, and I don't do this online, but for the last 27 years, or this is the 27th year, I have curated and hosted a slam at Yale University for the Dr. Martin Luther King Festival of Environmental and Social Justice,
Oh, fantastic.
where I have curated and hosted the slam. So we're getting ready to do that again on his birthday. I
Oh, excellent.
got, I got about 10 poets that are coming. It's gonna be
Ooh,
hot.
yeah, that sounds hot. Oh my goodness. And will we be able to see any of this online, you think?
I don't know whether. Yeah, I think it will be. I
Yeah,
think because it was shown last year. So yeah,
great.
I think they will show it on that. It'll be. I think
Oh,
it'll.
wonderful. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I wish you a good show. And I mean, you're a pro, so I know you'll have a good show, but I wish you a good show and to everybody else as well. And hope I get to see some of it because that's all very near and dear to my heart. It sounds incredible.
Last year, Amira Bilal was one of the poets.
Yes, she's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And really when she speaks a poem, she read a poem live on this show a couple years ago in our first year, in fact. That's back when we were doing this all on Instagram. And I couldn't really see anybody out there, of course, but I knew that she brought us all to a hush, just like a moment of silence, like with the power in the story she tells and how powerfully she delivers it.
Yes, it's powerful.
Yeah. Speaking of poems, so what are some of your favorite poems that you've written, and why do they mean so much to you?
Hmm.
I know I ask all these little annoying questions, don't I? I've been told that.
Hold on a minute. I'm sorry. Somebody calling.
That's okay. That's okay. You are listening to Pen Night Radio, folks. If you are enjoying this interview, please hit subscribe on Spotify and you keep in touch with us. Leave a comment. so that we can address a topic that is meaningful to you. We are listening to Ngoma Hill, a fantastic musician and poet who's had quite a prestigious career over the past couple decades. So
what poems? My favorite. I don't know if I got a favorite. I got poems that I've committed to memory that I really like, but
yeah.
I don't know. I'm sorry. What?
Sneakers.
Oh, my wife was sitting over here. She said sneakers. I did this. I did this poem. It's called Sneakers. I was a poet at the Badalisha Poetry Exchange in Cape Town, South Africa in 2009. There were like 7 or 8 of us, and we did workshops and concerts for like a week. And the poem that actually got press was a poem called Sneakers. The thing about Sneakers that I wrote, when I wrote it, there was a protest going on against the working conditions at Nike.
Mm.
And I did this poem. And when I did the poem, I actually got press.
Wow.
In South Africa. I don't know
Okay.
favorite, but the question is, can I remember it? I think I can remember it. Hate to break it down to you this way, but no, basketball is not revolution, and we need to end all confusion and disillusion and find a solution. Because the sign in the Nike sweatshop in Jakarta says, "Just do it," while Cisse and Sadisa earn $1.85 a day as you play. Less than the cost of a Nike shoelace, forced labor in your face. Dunk this, swish, swish. Give me a star on which to wish away this poverty. Exploitation is all I see. $11.10 for a 6-day week as we speak. Just trying to keep your family fed might earn you a sneaker upside your head if you're slow. Nike trips up on workers' rights, forced labor with only 5 hours sleep at night. And don't even think, striker, you lose your job, maybe even your life. The Nike commercial says, "We let our fears stand in the way of hope. We sit silently when we want to scream, why? Why? Because labor activists have much to fear. Tortured, raped, or disappeared might be your plight if you fight for human rights." Like Marcina from East Java, dead, bloated body floating in the Delhi River. And don't even think the government will stand up and deliver you from confusion. Hell no. Nike pays well for this collusion. And there's no hope of ever reaching the delusion of a finish line. Meanwhile, here under the stars and bars, Nike CEO named Knight, bankroll higher than a kite, portfolio 4.5 billion, yachts and planes and company trillions. Still a pair of Nikes cost 3 months' salary for workers begging on their knees in Vietnamese. Yeah, I hear y'all wondering what's they got to do with me and you chilling, watching the tube under the blood splattered banner, red, white, and blue. Well, Michael Jordan earned $40 million a year just to let Nike use his name. Twice as much as shooting hoops, which incidentally was his only claim to fame. Quietly playing ball because he's got no balls. But Nike pays brothers well not to show and tell. Besides, he's busy space jamming with Bugs Bunny, playing golf, making all that money. And as for Spike, he's got a habit of $40,000 pair of season tickets to the Knicks, plus $1 million for commercials, so much for rehearsals. Hey, Spike, take a leaflet to read about the workers' plight. I ain't got time. I'm trying to get a taxi for my wife. While a 12-year-old takes a 9 to the dome, murdered for his sneakers while trying to get home. One more brother laid to rest, a bullet in his head and chest. Another brother candidate for the penitentiary gate, creating jobs for them prison guards in the joint. Y'all get my point. So y'all can register and vote fast as you can, but the robber barons, they the master plan. You know, candidates call them up on the phone, Grand Boulay and Skull and Bone. Those with 33 degrees, keeping people on their knees with old world money and new world disorder. They think they can do anything they please. Watch out for these secret societies. Sneakers, just do it.
My goodness, that's amazing. And I love the way you recite. My goodness.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, you are the real deal, sir. That is, first of all, it's a very good poem. And second of all, your delivery is just so clean and fluent and compelling. And my goodness, I know you got people listening with that one.
Yeah, it got press in South Africa. I was like, yeah, wow.
Oh my goodness.
Interestingly enough, when I found out about this protest against Nike, it was on Pacifica Radio, WBAI. So I called them up and I said, "Yo, this is real interesting. Can you send me some information?" And they sent me eighth and a half, a packet of information this thick. Found my hand here, about 3 inches thick, a packet of information, and all of the stuff that I told you in that poem is stuff that was actually happening and was all true.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't stuff that I made up.
Right. Of course. Of course. That's incredible. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, just really appreciate, what you've dedicated your career to. It's powerful and it's meaningful, I think. And as we kind of discussed earlier, the more things change, the more things don't. It continues to be relevant.
Yeah, I hope so.
Oh, it sure does. It sure does. Would you like to read anything else for us, sir?
Oh, let's try this.
All right, I'm going to give you the floor.
This is from my book. I didn't come here to tap dance. It's called Uncomfortable Conversations. Many times, black folk go out of their way not to make white folk feel uncomfortable. But we've been uncomfortable ever since we were brought here in chains. When driving while black, every time we hear a police siren, we live in fear, living in a police state. But you say it can't happen here in these yet-to-be United States that you claim is post-racial. But these cops act like having brown skin is illegal, living in a reality show where there is no sequel. When we go into a department store, you follow us like thieves, but we're the ones that were stolen, along with whole countries, along with our history that's outlawed and aborted, our story distorted, or Set and Heru replaced by blue-eyed Jesus, then led to believe that anything unchristian is a sin, and that there was no history before the Nicene Council 325 AD, or around 1611 when that perverted James the King rewrote the Bible that he stole from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, it's been said, the Sun Book, aka the Book of Coming Forth by Day, extracting the 42 laws of Ma'at and leaving only 10 commandments. You would have need to read more books to understand this, but media and gangster rap makes education unpopular these days. So intellectual curiosity has taken a backstage to video games, hand-to-eye coordination, training folk to be quick on the trigger for wars never ending. The economy is broken, so the foreign lands your sons and daughters they are sending to maim, kill, and murder those who pray to Allah. Meanwhile, social media overloads of distraction got us inundating us with commercials, got us trying to keep up with the Joneses, while children in China slave in sweatshops making smartphones. Broken windows, stop and frisk policy is a part of the conspiracy. The criminalization of a generation in a country where the rate of incarceration is the largest in the, I wish I could call it, civilized world. And whole cities are employed from prison privatization as a means to control population, where the demographic is rapidly changing from white to black and brown. Meanwhile, there's still a struggle concerning abortion. Cancer treatment has become an industry, because in the cure, there's no profit. The educational system is only designed for training. Critical thought is lacking. They don't want us thinking. We might just figure out fascism is rising, so we need to have these uncomfortable conversations. It's too late to change the channel. The atmosphere is polluted with radiation, and it's not safe to put your head in the sand. Now we're doing die-ins, chanting, hands up, don't shoot, I can't breathe. Okay. Can't hear you.
I was just going to say, wow, that's my other favorite. Yes, truly inspiring stuff. Powerful, and it's all, and may I just say, it's always wonderful to hear from a true master.
Thank you.
Would you like to read one more before we close, or would that be it?
Before the end of the world.
All right.
If you think I'm sexy, let me know. Because we could get it on before these madmen blow up the world. I could be your bridge from the past to the future, because the future doesn't present much hope, and I'm looking for an alternative to war. Maybe a dark beer and a Nazi dread woman who practices ganja inhalation meditation. I want to taste the THC on her tongue. Take me to some other place deep between her thighs. I want to contemplate her navel from the inside. Search for answers to questions like what makes her juices flow. And I'm looking for an end to rhetoric. There's a battle going on to capture your mind. Surround yourself in light. Forget your prayers. Instead of trying to talk to God, meditate. God will talk to you. Listen to the silence. It may be the only good news available as lost souls cry out the truth, sacrifices to injustice, victims of the world's disorder. Beware of bushes that burn. Wake up and piss, the world's on fire. I saw it on the news the other day. Some madmen with stolen passports, men of no property, who love death more than women and freedom more than anything, set fire to Twin Towers in the Pentagon. Snakes' eyes came up like skeletons. The stench of rotting corpses poisoned Wall Street. Wrapped in old gory, the Dow tumbles like a drunk down a dark stairway, a victim of amnesia, forgetting all the crimes she has committed, pleading not guilty in the court of insanity, a cacophony of stolen elections, genocidal reflections, and wars that rage on since Solomon's temple. So choose the red or the blue pill, if you will. You who scoffed when told to behold that the horse was pale. Liberty is stuck at the airport, bags being searched by the National Guard, cheeks spread, raped again like Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Vietnam, Grenada, and Palestine. The news is controlled by Disney. The fantasy on your TV is stark reality. Only you have the power to change it. Put down your flag. It cannot protect you from the karma.
It has been very humbling to listen to you read tonight. My goodness, I'm so glad you decided to join the podcast.
I'm glad I could. Thank
Yes,
you for having me.
oh my goodness. Anytime, anytime, truly. James, I think, has been on 2, 3 times. We've had somebody who's been on 6 times. I mean, we always love to bring back people who have, such a powerful message to share. You said you had another engagement after this. What was that again?
The New Eureka Poets Cafe in New York has a virtual open mic.
Wow.
And I'm just going to go in there and read a couple of poems.
Excellent. Well, I know that they're going to be absolutely amazed, and we'll certainly get you out of here quick so you can prepare for that. Before we wrap up, how can we, the audience and all of our networks, support you, sir?
You can buy my book. The book is called "I Didn't Come Here to Tap Dance." It's on Lulu.
All right.
And you can also get it on Amazon, although I prefer that you buy it on Lulu because Amazon rips off artists.
Mm-hmm. All right, you got it. Well, we will certainly be looking into that book. By I Didn't Come Here to Tap Dance, folks. If you want to be inspired, taught a little bit about the real world, spiritually, socially, politically, changed, enlightened, raised your awareness, that is the book for you. And I certainly hope you will support Ngoma Hill. Ngoma, it has been an honor, sir.
All right. Thank you again for having me.
And thank you again for your service.
Yeah.
Yes, and we wish you all the best. And folks, that was Drop a Line. Sir, you take care.
All right, you too.
What a fantastic interview with Mr. Ngoma Hill. That was truly inspiring. First of all, it's always great to meet a veteran. It's always great to meet somebody who's been doing this for a while. And it's always great to talk to somebody who is so dedicated to raising social, political, and spiritual awareness, as Ngoma put it in our interview. We are very grateful to you for continuing to listen to the podcast. If you would like to engage with the podcast further, One True Promotion and Pen Night Radio are starting the Write Your Best Challenge. You can interact with us on social media as I post every day what I am writing and why it's meaningful to me. We're not posting word counts. We're posting content. We're posting stories. We are getting vulnerable about our art and encouraging community to get vulnerable as well and come together as a unified body that is filling the world with fresh, original, and relevant content. Andrew Best also has a book club going. He is committing himself to reading and reviewing everything that he reads. And any one of us who are in the club, including me, are called upon to do the same. Let's get people reading and reviewing, artists, poets, authors, everybody, because reviews make the world go round. It pushes you up the pyramid. It allows people to find you on sellers such as Amazon because there is more engagement with your product. So please do review everything that you read. Thank you for listening to another episode of Pen Night Radio. To hear more about how we expand on this topic, I invite you to check out previous episodes of the podcast and send your own thoughts in so that we can keep you engaged and get you a chance to appear as a guest and talking partner during a future episode that tackles your favorite topic. We talked a lot about music today, but as I said in the first segment, music is and writing can be one and the same. So folks, if you're listening to some good tunes right now, all the better. And even if you're not, Knights, thank you for listening and write on.